can you describe yourself in one word?
I would have to say resilient. I think, just coming over from the States at such a young age and, battling through whatever adversities there have been, just constantly, putting my head down and being that hard Midwestern working American. I think resilient is the best word I can think of.
We moved here when Josh was about 2, and he grew up kicking balls off all these walls and doing everything he could around here. Here's the first soccer team. This is when we lied. I think he was 3. We had to lie and say he was 5 years old. First uniform he ever put on. In his first game, he got 9 goals. So that's when I was like, oh, hey, we might be onto something here.
So he was always going to be a forward?
Yeah, it looked like it from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been very close with my family. I'd say I'm a very family-oriented person. I have 2 parents, 1 mom, 1 dad, Leanne and Jeff. And I have an older sister, Taylor, and a little sister, Alyssa. And just soccer runs in the family. Everybody, that's like, I think if you ask everybody, that'd be their main sport. So yeah, just one big happy soccer family, I guess.
Yeah, we both played through college. I would say that was probably the main sport, but we all played a lot of things. Josh played American football, hockey, basketball, baseball, along with soccer.
I don't want to say my dad more than my mom, but he was really excited to help coach out and teach me everything. And I think from the age of 3, I started playing, and from there it just kind of took off, obviously.
I coached him from 8 to probably 6 to 10 maybe.
Coached me in soccer and basketball, actually, and yeah, I don't know. I never really thought about it like it was weird or anything like that. It was just very natural for me. He taught me a lot of things, I feel like, in the backyard or whatever it was. So for him to do it, on a team, it just wasn't really any different for me. And we got along really well, and it was hard on me when he needed to be. And although I hated it and I'd cry or whatever, I was a very emotional kid growing up. He definitely found a way to get the best out of me.
You know what, it was good. Josh and I, very well. His older sister didn't want me to coach her at all. The younger one I'm coaching now, so I think each kid's a little different.
I think has always loved me a lot and wanted to coach me. He wanted to, take that time after work to come out and help me, get better, which I have always appreciated.
Josh was the curly, red-headed, fast forward that was flying everywhere. So he was advanced from the get-go. We always had him play up, 1 year, 2 years up. Because he was better than everybody else, but he was the fast forward that was constantly pressing.
One of the great things about St. Louis is it's soccer is really ingrained in the DNA of a lot of families and the culture here in St. Louis, and I think both his parents played soccer.
In St. Louis, we're very proud of our own. We've been following Josh ever since he rose up. It's one of the pillars of the soccer community here. If you come up through that, you have to be good, obviously.
I don't think I really started taking it that seriously until probably around 14 years old, I would say, was the point where my dad kind of sat down with me and was like, all right, you really have to start narrowing things down, pick a sport, what you want to do, because it started to get to be too much, And soccer was just the thing I was propelling myself forward in the most, getting better and better. And yeah, it was just, like I said, the sport I love the most, so I just kind of stuck with it. I think my dad kind of got me as far as he really could, and then I think Kevin took over where, all right, let's take this to the next level. Let's make it a bit more serious, learn all the tactics of football and everything like that. I remember he was the one, he was like, all right, we're going to start, like, when we advanced to age group where we started playing 11 against 11, he was like, all right, you're going to be the number 10. I was like, what's that? And he was like, oh, Wayne Rooney plays that position. I was like, oh, okay, I'll do that, because I loved Rooney as a kid. And yeah, I remember, he kind of took me under his wing, started teaching me really all the skills and tactics that you need to know in football.
He was a little bit of a late developer physically, and so he was going through some growth spurts at that time. So, it wasn't always the smoothest road for Josh during those 13 through 15 years. He was physically growing, and I think he had a little bit of some back issues at times. But again, he always came with the same mentality. That's what we always respected about Josh. He's always a great teammate. He always comes with a hardworking attitude.
Like I said, as a young kid, I just want to get out and play and have fun. Really, I wasn't thinking about too much other than that. But he definitely saw a lot in me. He was the one, telling scouts to come out to games and watch me, whatever it was. So I owe a lot to him.
So do you still keep in contact?
I do, yeah. We talk about sending pizza. He tried to send pizza over from this special place in St. Louis called Emo's, actually, or maybe it was Peroni's Pizza. It's two special places, but didn't work out. Yeah, unfortunately.
I promised him a while ago I was going to ship him some pizza at some point. I still haven't done that yet, but I think with his current diet, he may not want it. But one of these days, I think we'll get him some pizza over there for. I'm not sure how your pizza is in the UK, but in St. Louis, it's Peroni.
So he got invited to national team camps and went on a few trips with them. And from there, they selected, I think, 20 kids to go down to Florida and live down there. And he was asked. And so from a personal level, it was very tough. He was 15 years old. We had to send him down there, and it wasn't easy at all. But I knew from a playing level, he had, was down there with the best players his age in the country. So he got pushed and tested every day. And I think he'd tell you that it was the best thing that happened to him at the time.
We knew it was coming. He was, like I said earlier, he was playing up 1 or 2 years and scoring a ton of goals at, our nation's top level. So we knew it was a matter of time before somebody came knocking on his door. He was getting some looks with the U.S. national team early, and typically when that happens, they invite the player to the residency program in Florida and live there, around the clock. So we knew it was coming. It was just a matter of time.
You're training every day with each other, obviously the best of the best in the country, and going to school all together. And for a year and a half, you do that leading up to the U17 World Cup. You're just playing friendlies, tournaments in different countries, and that's obviously where things, started getting more attention in that time.
He adjusted probably better than his mom and I did. Right. So, but he was always, the beginning was always a little rough. You're away from home, you leave your friends, you leave your school, you leave everything. But he adjusted fairly quickly. A month or two in, I think he felt pretty comfortable.
It was obviously hard for myself, leaving all my friends, looking on Snapchat, seeing there's high school parties, whatever it is. And obviously really hard on my parents as well. But in the end, we all had the same kind of vision in mind.
Talking with his family, I think it was a hard decision at first because it's a big life change, but definitely the right decision for Josh.
Once a year, I think we have these Nike friendlies where, big teams come over. So I think the first year we played Netherlands, England, and Portugal maybe. This was kind of that time where I had a bit of a shock, like, what's going on here? Like, this is very serious. I remember we played against England, and they had Angel Gomez, Phil Foden, Sancho, all these guys. Oh, we could not touch the ball. We were chasing it like crazy. But then, next Nike friendlies came around. This is when I was captain of the U17 national team, confident everything was going well, and we ended up winning it. We beat every team, I'm pretty sure, in that tournament, and yeah, I think that really is what started, you know, the real attention from these other clubs.
It's the Nike International Friendlies, part of U.S. Soccer's Development Academy Winter Showcase. Sargent able to get there past it, and Josh Sargent off the inside of the post gives the United States a 2-0 lead in the 19th minute. Slotted into Sargent. Sargent's into the area. Sargent, left foot, his second. Sargent will cut back. They'll try and get it to Sargent. Josh Sargent with the back heel has a hat trick here on the first night of the Nike International Friendlies. It's 6-1 USA. Now it's Josh Sargent in behind the defender. Into the box. Shot. Josh Sargent scores! United States lead 2-0.
The winner of the 2016 Nike International Friendlies, the United States.
Hackworth has had probably the biggest impact, I would say, on my career. He was really like a second father almost, you know, as well as a coach. He took everybody under his wing. He got very personal with all of us. And he was just very good at communicating and getting his point across when he needed to in the right way.
The thing about Josh that I absolutely respect and love is that in the initial conversation I said, you have work to do. And he immediately took that as no problem. I'll go do all the work. Josh had moved down to Bradenton, Florida at the IMG Academy, and he'd been living and training with us in a full-time residency program. So obviously, because we worked together daily and had gone through, you know, many games, you know, probably close to 50 games at that point, and traveled all over the world, we did have a close relationship and had built a lot of mutual trust.
Yeah, he's helped me, you know, through the process of picking an agent as well. That's why I'm with the guy I am now. And he's just a very big part of my career, I would say.
I was so happy to see him have success with the 17s. And then we worked very closely with our under-20 coach, Tab Ramos. And Tab, at the same time, called him up to the under-20s, and that was a fantastic story.
You know, you could just tell he was in really good form. He loved his teammates. He had a good relationship with his coaching staff, and you could tell that he was in a really good environment for his development at that time. And then, you know, as any striker, you get in good form, you get confident, and you know, he was able to do it at the U20 World Cup as well.
It was probably like his dad, you know, a very just proud, so proud of him that he could accomplish something at the under 17 level and then immediately go to the 20s and join a team and immediately come in and be as successful as he was in that World Cup.
I was doing some coaching with the under-18s. Kevin Kalish, who was working with both groups at the time, wanted me to do a position-specific session. So he said, we're going to take the best. We've got this really good under-16 striker that's going to come and do some work. I think that's quite tough because that's 2 years above and he's going to be with 17s and 18s. So he came into this session, we worked specifically with them, and you could see immediately the potential of him. Clinical with his finishing, just looked like he was above the under-18s in terms of the quality.
From a young age, I excelled. I was, you know, better than everybody else, but once it started getting more serious to national team and whatnot, I actually found myself being very insecure and like kind of coming into this thing where I wasn't very, you know, knowledgeable about. I didn't know about world football that much. Anytime my parents, you know, turned on a game, I was like, oh, this is so boring. I'm not watching this. I wanted to watch hockey, you know, whatever it was. And so I think, you know, it was a very big shock to me just how serious things got. And yeah, I wasn't confident at that time. I kind of got a little scared. So it's definitely a wake-up call, I think, for a year. You know, I struggled for a bit, just kind of trying to take it all in.
We always felt as if Josh had the profile from a physical point of view that would be really suited to playing in Europe. And in a non-disrespectful way, all the conversations I was part of was he would underachieve if he was playing MLS. We always wanted him to get over to Europe, and we felt as if somewhere like Germany, he certainly had the profile to suit playing over there.
Yeah, people started gossiping, whispering like this scout's here for you, blah, 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 whatever it is. So it was all very exciting at the time, obviously. Yeah.
Your big clubs will have scouts based in North America. So for example, I recommended him to 2 Premier League clubs at the time at U16 and 17 over here. Now the issue that you have in the States is the visa. So you can't move until you're 18. So that was a huge part of it. Unless you have a passport, it's extremely difficult or impossible to move over to Europe until your 18th birthday. So I think when he had the big success in the Nike tournament in Florida, that was the point where we saw lots of clubs who we knew he was going to move then.
I remember PSV specifically, I think it was the day after I landed, they had me training and my head was spinning, legs were so tired, I just wasn't ready for it. It's hard to really, prove yourself when you're just jet lagged like that as well. That was the only, frustrating thing because I knew I could show more, but at the same time, very exciting, obviously training at these massive clubs. And yeah, I was nervous, of course, but I was just really excited for the opportunity, to come to Europe like I've always wanted to do.
It was neat. I went over there with him and he got to train with him about a week. And, it was our first glimpse of how it would be overseas. And, I always felt like that he would adjust to the training and team play and all that. So I wasn't, it wasn't going to be an automatic fit, but I wasn't afraid of that part. It was more, how the living situation would be. And you're in a foreign country, you don't speak the language. So those were my concerns more.
You never know how that's all going to play out, right? I think I think every young player's aspirations are to play professionally and potentially go to Europe at some point. I'll be honest, being a St. Louis guy, and we actually thought he was going to play here at St. Louis University. That was more of his natural trajectory. And then when he blew up at the world stage at the U17 and U20 World Cup, I think his star became even brighter, and I think his trajectory became even larger. So it was definitely the right decision for Josh.
I think Germany was really the biggest option, and for me at that point as well, being so young, I think England, not just the Prem, whatever league it was just, a very big step at the moment. So I think Germany was a good pathway for myself. And like I said, Christian and Weston McKennie, these guys that already went to Germany and proved themselves, it makes it very tempting to go there and try it as well.
So by that time we had finally got an agent, and he kind of organized, he reached out, a few clubs have reached out and said they wanted to see him and train. And so we went over there and trained with Schalke, Stuttgart, and Bremen. And he we had a choice at that point to go with either 3, and we felt like Bremen felt like home at the time.
Yeah, I remember it got to the point, again, I was talking to my agent and him just saying, you have this club, you have this club, whatever it is. In the end, it's really gut decision. I can't tell you this is better than this. It's not my decision, whatever. And, I just had to sit there for a bit, and I just felt very comfortable with Bremen, everything they showed me, everything they told me. And so, yeah, it was a very exciting time. I remember I didn't even think about how hard it was going to be to move over there. I was just, like you said, really excited to start this new chapter in my life that I've been waiting for so long.
Werder Bremen are one of the traditional blue chip clubs of German football. Fairly small town, but very, very passionate. The north of Germany, not far from the sea. It's a one club town. Everything is white and green all the time.
Werder Bremen are a club with an enormously passionate fan base. They have their enormous local rivals Hamburg. They have the Nord Derby when those two sides meet.
Used to be very successful in the 80s and early 90s, then again another successful spell in the noughties.
The Weserstadion itself is an incredible cauldron of noise, 42,000 fans when it's full on the banks of the River Weser. It must be for players to go and play there an incredible stadium to have as your home ground with that passionate fan base. They've had hard times in recent years. They went down for the first time in 40 years at the end of the 2020-21 season, but bounced back at the first time of asking. So it's been a club with a checkered past, but enormous success over the years. I think Bremen fans hope the good times are now back and back to stay.
The league and the Bundesliga too is only 18 teams, so a lot less demand on you physically. You also have a proper winter break. There's only one club competition, so it's a little bit more genteel in terms of the tempo. Bundesliga 2 traditionally is a little bit more physical, a little bit more direct, and the Bundesliga, where a lot of teams like to play good football, but pressing is a big thing, both in Division 1 and 2. Almost every team plays with a pretty high press, try to work very hard, which makes it difficult for strikers in particular because they have to perhaps do more running than they would like to.
We had a clear profile that we need number 9, a young number 9, who could be ready to maybe being a starter at one time. The American market is always for me an interesting market because it's so big and so huge. And this time I tried to, find a way for my former club Werder Bremen to build up a scouting department in the US. So definitely it was a market I was trying to figure out how we can connect to this market and find the right players. Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Bremen was actually really nice. They flew myself and my whole family out, and we were able to look around the city and hang out there for a little bit, get the feeling of it, and we all loved it. The city center was amazing. My dad loved visiting over there, getting a bratwurst and beer and just sitting in the city center because they played some live music too. But no, it was a very, very welcoming place and warming place from the very beginning.
You know, it was it felt a lot like St. Louis. It just felt like it felt like a small big city. You know, it felt like home. He really liked the general manager there, and he just got along with everybody right away.
Yeah, you know, I heard about Josh for a while. You hear about this kid from St. Louis, this young player who can score goals really easily. You know, I think when he was like 17, I started hearing about him, and it was exciting. It was exciting to think about, okay, you know, you have a striker in America, a guy that can be, you know, at such a young age is that good. And we were really excited to see what his progress was going to be like.
Luckily, I was the assistant coach for that team. And it was really nice to see Josh come up to the senior team as a teenager and have as much success as he did. Josh did it with his play on the field. I would also say that the way he approaches off the field, the way he integrated himself with the various staffs and with the players, I mean, it's easy for him, you know. He can go into a new locker room and seamlessly, you know, be one of the old guys right away. So he certainly did that, and that was to his advantage.
In person, he was bigger than I thought he was, and good presence, great kid, you know, really great demeanor, competitive. He was quick, you know, good shot. Like on the field, you know, there was a lot of things that we really liked about him.
cool feeling, obviously. Always wanting to play for your national team, and then, you know, scoring on your debut. I think Tim Weah was also a guy who debuted and scored on that day, and we both came up through youth national team together, and it was just a very surreal moment for both of us. It was really cool and kind of, you know, eye-opening, like, all right, this is happening.
And just tell us about it as well. When you did move over there, was it immediately like this is where I need to be? I felt at home, or was it very different? Was it different?
Yeah, it was very difficult when I moved over. Like I said, I didn't think about how hard it would be. I moved by myself for the first 5 months, I think it was. And I remember the first 2-3 weeks I was calling home saying, I think I messed up, like crying, just really upset. Germans weren't the most friendly guys on the training pitch, as you could imagine. Yeah, just screaming, picking on young guys, and especially this young American coming in thinking he's, you know, hot stuff, whatever.
You know, we were obviously very proud of him, very happy for him and all that, but as a parent, you're also, you know, you start worrying about the next thing. It's like, okay, now, you know, the work just starts here. Now you got to earn that contract and, you know, keep improving every day. And that's kind of what we tried to tell him too. And he always had a pretty good head on his shoulder, so, you know, but we were very proud of him.
I think I didn't really have a choice. You know, I was there. I was kind of, they were saying, you know, trying to comfort me, just saying, you know, it'll happen. It'll get better. If we need to come over, we can come over for a little bit. And so I think just sitting in my room, watching Netflix series, kind of trying to forget about everything. And then, you know, when I'm on the pitch, just do my thing. I think that kind of helped the most. That was another thing, right? When I moved over there, because I was under 18 or something, I wasn't allowed to play in any games yet. And so I wasn't able to play in games and prove myself. I was just training strictly for 5 months. And I think playing in games and being able to score and show what you can do helps earn respect from other guys, obviously. So it's a very strange situation. But, you know, like I said, after a month or two, you know, I found my feet and everything was all right.
The key is that we just didn't have so much players from overseas. So Josh was, in this time, the only player we took from the US. So there was a lot of intention and a lot of time to take care of him and show him the right way. All the new things he has to learn. The first couple of weeks he called me almost every day and then asked me something like, where's the supermarket, or how can I order pizza, stuff like this. So yeah, I think it's the personal note we're trying to give the players in this time.
It's definitely a huge step for such a young player coming over from the US, and for us it was also our biggest challenge, to be honest, because we wanted to help him, we wanted to feel him comfortable as soon as possible. Because of Josh, because of he's so open, so kind, he's a really smart guy. That's why it was quite easy to introduce him to everyone here at the club, and also to feel quite comfortable for him.
In Bremen, everything was new, everything was excited, new language, new country. But you can see in the second team where he started that he scores his goals, and yeah, everybody was excited here to see him with the first team, and yeah, then there came this day in 2018 where he debuted.
Well, this is a very proud moment for one of the bright starlets of US football, Joshua Thomas Sargent.
I can't remember the build-up to the game, but I do remember, like I've said this ever since it actually happened, coming into the game, it was just like, I wasn't focused on anything. My head was spinning. It was all like blurry, it seemed like. And then I scored the goal. It just all fell into place perfectly. Just a nice, easy tap-in goal on my first touch. And yeah, even the rest of the night, I just remember I can't remember anything just because I was buzzing. Like my head I just remember it was, yeah, the craziest feeling ever.
And Sargent! How about that for your Bundesliga entrance? First touch in the top flight of German football.
Everyone thought, who is this guy? And yeah, it's such an amazing debut. The stadium was sold out, and also for him, you could see. I still have his smile after that goal in my mind, and for him it was like a great start with the first team.
He took the chance and scored, and yeah, big celebration, big day for him as well. And so everybody was hoping that he's maybe the next big thing here in Bremen.
You know, new face, as somebody that only insiders would have really seen play, maybe for the second team a little bit. But to see him score on his debut was, I think, testament to his talent and gave everyone the greatest of hopes for what might come in the future.
When he comes in, will he take his chance? And obviously he did. You can't do better than your first game in the Bundesliga versus Fortuna Düsseldorf. You come on, your first touch, and you score in one of the top 5 leagues in the European game. Incredible story, and that is the moment that Josh Sargent arrived on the international football stage.
It's Osako for Werder Bremen. Has support arriving as well from Sargent, like a duck to water in the Bundesliga. Here's Sargent chasing on. Can he finish? Oh, you bet he can.
I think relegation had been on the cards. I think it was really 4 or 5 years where you thought Werder were only going one way. They were conceding a lot of goals. They were staying up by the skin of their teeth almost. And it was hard for Josh to go into a team where they were obviously struggling.
It was quite hard for all of us, but also for Josh. You could see that he's thinking about everything. What could I do better? What happened in the last game?
The sad fact of the matter was that the Werder side at the time were really struggling and didn't have the best of times with a manager that was being under real pressure almost from the get-go, and with a team that ultimately went down. So for a centre forward leading the line at a really young age in a team that's struggling was always going to be a really tall order. But I think considering all that, he did exceptionally well coming away with the amount of goals and assists that he did in a team that really didn't have that many good stories when it comes to personal performances that season.
No audience in the stadium, so no supporters to maybe do the U-turn or something like this. So it was very hard. There were a lot of people coming to the stadium, waiting outside, watching on their smartphones the final game. It was just shock after 40 years again in the second division. It was cruel because nobody really knows what will happen with this club. Financial crisis, a lot of players left the club.
We started already the season here in Germany, and but I have to say it was during that time last year. You know, after COVID, everything was late. The transfer market was almost down. Nothing really happened at that time. No club had that amount of money we expected for Josh, and of course Norwich came in, and I think it was like a very quick, fast negotiation time. I think during 1 week, 10 days, we fixed the deal, and Josh was happy. I think Norwich was happy, and we as well.
It wasn't a big surprise, to be honest, that he's moving to the Premier League or to England, because his style of play, his intensity, and his hunger for more was over there. So for me, it wasn't a big surprise, to be honest. And I told him that this step could be, for him, could be amazing. Yeah.
So, you know, we knew Milo went over to there, and it was about 2 weeks after that Josh's agent called and told me, he had conversations with Josh and told me that Norwich was interested in him too. And obviously being in the Premier League was attractive, and Josh called Milo and see how he was doing. He was only there a couple of weeks, and he said he liked it. And you know, Josh was itching at a chance to get in the Premier League, so he jumped at it.
Like we talked a lot. Like we always been together outside the field. Like I was always at his place with his girlfriend and him. And yeah, we were talking a lot. Like he was like, okay, what should I do? I knew that a lot of clubs want him, and I knew also like his favorite was like to go in the Premier League because of his playing style and his to speak English and everything like this. I guess was good for him. I really remember the time when Norwich and Berda finished the deal. Like we've been in the city at Vapiano, you know Vapiano? Yeah, we've been there, and like we were not sure. Like we said, okay, maybe it's our last time we're eating together. And directly when we get the pasta, like his agent was calling, say, okay, the transfer is done. You're going to Norwich. And yeah, like we were a little bit sad, but I was also happy for him. And yeah, I guess we just enjoying the time together. And I guess 2 or 3 days later, he was moving to Norwich.
I wasn't really set on what I was going to do, to be honest. You know, I was such a young guy, still am a young guy, but I was obviously young and knew that playing in the second Bundesliga wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I know I'd get, you know, good experience, good game time. But yeah, I was always open for a move at the same time, and luckily Norwich called. Yeah, I mean, as I said, it's the Premier League. I think it's the best league in the world, and I think it's, you know, going to push me and challenge me to be a better player. And you know, I heard it's a good group of guys. I talked with the manager already, and I really like what they're trying to do here at Norwich, and I'm very excited to get started.
With Josh, we got the feeling, so he's a player full of potential. He's pacey, he's good with the head, he works his socks off for his team during his game, and he's also capable not just to play in the striker role, but also behind the striker. He's capable to play on the wing. So I think it was an unbelievably smart signing, and there was lots of competition. Perhaps Josh is not the biggest name here in England, but in Bundesliga level, nearly each and every club was really thinking about him. And yeah, it's up to us to work with him, and up to him to prove that he can deliver on the top level. But we all got the feeling that he can have a major impact in the mid and the long-term future, and also hopefully on the short term.
Yeah, I think I'm still very young, and to get so many, not only games but starts, and play a very long time in these games, it has helped me gain a lot of experience, and hopefully I can take that experience and bring it here to the Premier League.
Josh was part of a group of players that kind of fit the remit of what we were looking for at the time. Daniel and his coaching team had a knowledge of the player, of course, but our work really started on Josh back in 2017. He comes to prominence in the Under-20 World Cup, scored 4 goals, got the silver boot. So our kind of knowledge of Josh has been quite a long period to kind of develop that knowledge of Josh. And obviously Daniel and his coaching team having a knowledge of the player obviously helped, but we were aware of Josh for a period of time before.
Josh Sargent wasn't a name that I was particularly familiar with, but the internet's a great thing, isn't it? And within minutes of finding out that Norwich have signed a player you don't know much about, you can find out about their careers in an instant. So I was looking up goals that he'd scored and career statistics to see what Norwich City had got, because for a club like this, still, you know, an £8 million striker is a big deal. That was what the fee was said to be. So to have a player who was coming in to play up front for that amount of money felt like a big signing.
You know, he'd had a history of scoring goals and creating goals, a versatile player that could play multiple positions, and an interesting physical profile to come and compete in England. So there was a lot of boxes that Josh ticked, but we also felt that in the short term he could help the team, but also in the mid and long term, you know, he could become a valuable asset for the football club. I think in terms of transitioning into a new club as a young player, I think people sometimes forget Josh's age, but you know, when he joined us, he was 21, and when we were discussing the player we wanted to bring in for that role, the fact that he had a connection with Milot and a relationship with Milot on the pitch as well, that also kind of come into our decision making.
I think the fact that Rashica had already arrived made sense. It made Norwich City fans think, well, there's definitely method here, because we've signed 2 players, one who plays on the wing and one who plays up front, and they've been playing together for the last couple of years. So the assumption was they must have a good relationship, they must know each other's game, and that hopefully they would help each other kick on when they arrived in the Premier League with Norwich City. Having
Milot, you know, at the last club, coming here and then speaking with Farke, it just seemed like it was going to be such an easy transition, which it was really. He made a big emphasis on the guys on the team. All of them were very easygoing. Nobody was going to give you problems, and that's exactly how it was. Everybody, you know, kind of welcomed me with open arms, and still to this day, I think we have a great group of guys.
It's a day that so many people have waited for so long. But to have a stadium looking like this just makes you appreciate what the fans bring to football at every single level.
I remember specifically, you know, coming over here and wasn't on social media or anything, so not really sure what the fans were thinking, what the league was thinking, whatever. And I remember going out to warm up for the first time on the sideline, and all the fans started chanting USA, USA.
A chance of USA coming from the stand behind Alisson's goal. That's because Josh Sargent from O'Fallon, just outside of St. Louis, is warming up over there.
That definitely gave me a good feeling, like, oh, maybe they do like me here. And yeah, I remember getting into the game and actually did pretty well, if I remember correctly.
You know, it was obviously on here, and there's a lot of Liverpool fans here, but maybe that day they were cheering for Norwich, and I probably got 50 to 75 texts saying, hey, how cool is that? You know, Josh is playing against Liverpool now, so it was neat.
Yeah, I was buzzing at that moment. I remember Firmino also in the tunnel asked to switch jerseys with me for some reason. I don't know if he knew me from playing in Bundesliga as well, but yeah, it was just a very cool night for me. I remember FaceTiming my dad, like, look whose jersey I have, this is crazy.
It's amazing, right? I think to see any player play at that level and play against world-class players on a consistent basis is, you know, what every coach would strive for, you know, be able to allow for that player to take that next step and play at that level. Is, you know, watching him on Sundays and, you know, with my family and my sons and daughters is, yeah, it's surreal, and it's pretty awesome. It's a pretty awesome experience.
Dowell and Jolis playing in the wide positions. Josh Sargent starts up front. Playing with someone like that, and he's just given the ball straight to Dowell. It's a bad mistake from Bournemouth. Dowell feeds the ball into the penalty area. Chance for Norwich City. It's saved, but yes. Sargent will get to the rebound, and now he's scored his first Norwich City goal in front of the Barclay. It was a tap in for Josh Sargent, but that won't worry him. He's off and running as a Norwich player, and it's Norwich City 4, Bournemouth 0. Zimmerman now gives the ball to Omibamidele. Touched on by Gilmore. Dowell gets something on it. Oh, and they've given it away again. And Jolis could be in for a hat-trick here on his Norwich City debut. Oh, he tees it up for Sargent, and he scrambles it in! Unselfish play from Christos Solis. He was through, he was on a hat-trick, and yet he squared it for Josh Sargent to just bundle the ball into the net. And Norwich City have got 6 with 16 minutes to go. Sargent with his second. Norwich 6, Bournemouth 0.
See him come on and play and then make his full debut against Bournemouth and score a couple of goals. I think that really captured the potential of Josh Sargent, because not only was he a striker with goals to his name in Germany and a big price tag, but when he got those 2 goals, you saw what it's like being a footballer for Norwich City, and that the fans always want you to do well, because even after we got the first of those 2 goals, the chants of USA were already starting. So it was a place let's not forget, Carrow Road was only just open again after lockdown. Fans were back in. And I think the supporters here were desperate for a cult hero because they'd not seen Norwich play for so long. So to have the new American striker scoring a couple of goals so early on in the season, those chants of USA, I think there was a real willingness here, a real will from the supporters to get behind him and wanting him to become a bit of a Norfolk cult hero.
From the first days I could tell, even in training, you know, it's very fast paced on the field. You have to think very quickly, but it's been a good challenge so far, and hopefully, you know, it'll keep challenging me and making me better.
Nice one. Thanks, mate.
Nice one. Cheers, Joe.
Top man. Thank you.
How have you found Premier League football first and foremost when you come in? Because it is a very hugely difficult league to just drop into, particularly when you've played abroad and never experienced playing in this country, even at lower levels. Was it a bit of a culture shock to you?
Football-wise, yeah, definitely. Especially, you know, playing in a position that I wasn't really used to playing in. Just really wasn't the most comfortable, obviously. And, you know, going into it, we know we're not the favorites. We know each game is going to be tough. And really, I was just trying to take the most out of it, what I could, you know, working as hard as I could, learning, like watching these teams and seeing, you know, this is the level I want to be at. And this is, you know, these are the things you need to do if you want to make it here. So it was a really good experience, I would say.
But I don't want you to miss anything on the way down as Norman puts one over the top of the Brighton defence. Sargent is chasing it, keeper's out of his penalty area, and he hasn't got there! And Josh Sargent is going to roll the ball towards an empty net, and he hasn't put enough on it! And across comes Duffy and clears the ball away, and that should have been the moment. Josh Sargent had a gaping, open goal.
Yeah, it was one of those moments from last season that probably summed up what it was like for Josh Sargent, getting used to a new country, a new league, for a new team who at the time were struggling. I think he found it really difficult. And strikers, I mean, his work rate was never questioned, even in the Premier League. He put himself about, that continued. But strikers are always judged on goals, particularly when they come, in Norwich City's terms, with a big price tag. And the fact those goals weren't coming, I think that must have weighed heavily on his mind, because it probably did threaten that cult hero status.
How's it been under Dean Smith? How have you found working under him?
I've liked it a lot. I think he's a really good manager. Right away, you can tell he's really good with his players. And yeah, I remember, you know, thinking it is a new manager now. Farke's the one that brought me here, so it's going to be a bit of a strange situation. That's, I think, the only moment I felt a bit, you know, alienated, I would say, just because I was like, oh God, my safety net, whatever. Like, he was the one that brought me here. Now what's going to happen? But, you know, I think in the end, just if I worked my butt off, that everything would be all right.
I think my first impressions were that physically he was a lot more of a physical specimen than I imagined him to be. It flagged up on our recruitments when I was at Aston Villa as well, because somebody so young leaving America to go to Europe and Germany, I think it probably flagged up on a lot of people's radars. And then obviously Norwich took him in here. You know, yeah, it struck me that, you know, he was physical. And when we first started working with him, he didn't start the first game, but he came on at half time and we put him wide, and the shift that he put in that second half helped change the game for us. And you know, he never got the rewards I think he deserved last season in the Premier League, which is a tough league to go and score goals in. So he probably never got the rewards that he deserved. But I thought his work ethic and his attitude and his application were first class. And you know, he got a couple of goals against Watford in a big win. But I think probably his biggest regret was he didn't score as many more goals than he probably did, and he could have. But yeah, he's a good guy. started the game off quite well. The previous game, I think we played Everton and we'd gone 4-4-2, and we decided to stick with it. We'd had a really good performance and results against Everton, and we stuck with it. I think we had Pierre and Lungi in midfield. Unfortunately, I think Lungi got injured after about 20 minutes, and Kenny McLean went on for him. But it was just a real strong performance from us as a team. We always had an outlet with Josh down that side, down the right-hand side. We had Adam Ida just inside of him as well, so we were really powerful down that side. And you know, against a team that normally overpowers us in Watford, I thought we overpowered them that night. And on top of that, you know, he's got 2 great goals.
He's taken the ball, plays it across, and it's gone in from Josh Sargent. Did it cross the line? Did it cross the line? It did! Josh Sargent has his first Premier League goal! And in dramatic circumstances, Norwich City have taken the lead.
I think I showed him how to do that.
It was fantastic. My youngest son and Josh played together during that time down in Bradenton, Florida. My youngest son was in college, and I just remember when he scored that scorpion kick, you know, the first thing is my younger son texted me. He's like, "Did you see Josh's goal?" I was like, "Of course I saw it."
To me, that was very similar from a commentary point of view as the miss against Brighton, because it happened as it happens in front of you. You're thinking, how do I sum this up? How am I going to explain what's just happened to people who can't see it? Because it was a goal unlike any I've ever seen in all these years of watching and commentating on Norwich City. And again, I think the outpouring towards him that night when he followed it up with what I think some football purists say was a better goal, the header.
Sargent attacks the ball and he's headed it in! Josh Sargent has his second for Norwich City, and there's no doubt about that one. Brilliant cross from Rashica. Sargent attacks the ball and heads it down and into the corner of the net. And Norwich City are lighting up Vicarage Road. They go and celebrate with the supporters. It's Watford 0, Norwich 2, and Josh Sargent has picked quite the night to hit the Premier League goal trail.
A lot of people maybe need to remember, and it always surprises me that he is still only 22. So it was a very young footballer coming to a new country, new culture, new club for a team that actually was struggling in the Premier League and was always going to struggle. I think it's not easy to catch the eye. It's not easy to hit the ground running in those circumstances for anybody. Yeah, I think it must have been quite a steep learning curve for him, but you know, that is what you want as a footballer. When he arrived, he said he wants to be in the Premier League, he wants to catch the eye. And what we hoped we saw in his first season with Norwich City was just the start of his Premier League career, rather than just the only go he's going to get at it.
He's, as I said before, a team player, so he'll feel partly responsible for that, as we all do. But he's a sensible enough lad as well to know that, you know, it was always going to be difficult for Norwich to stop up. We had to be performing, you know, at the top of our levels to be staying in that Premier League, and we didn't quite manage to do that. But he's used his time well to prepare himself physically and mentally for, you know, the rigours of what is the Championship. And, you know, he will still see himself as a Premier League player because he's played there, and he knows how hard he has to work to get back to that level. And he's certainly helping us do that, and hopefully we can do that together.
I think that week, the Huddersfield-Millwall week, was a really big one for Josh Sargent, because so much football has been played in the first part of the Championship season. It passes so quickly, you almost have to just sit back and take stock. At that point, Norwich had played 3 games and were bottom of the table. They hadn't won a game. And then Dean Smith was under pressure, and we then got to the ground and found out that Teemu Pukki, his main talisman, was injured as well. So it looked like a tricky week for Dean Smith. 2 home games, without your main striker when you're bottom of the table. That's tough, especially when you've just been relegated. But he put Sargent up front in his favourite position. He got a goal very early on, didn't he, against Huddersfield, and then something just seemed to click. A couple more later in the week against Millwall, and before you know it, he's up there almost at the top of the charts in the Championship.
Down, halfway inside the Millwall half. Nice pass to Sargent, on to Sinani, back to Sargent. Could this be the chance? Oh, what a finish! Josh Sargent again for Norwich City. Scores in front of the Barclay, and it just clicked there between the Norwich attacking players. Sinani and Dowell instrumental. Perfect pass through to Sargent, who finishes with a flourish. And the Barclay ends can celebrate a goal. It's Norwich City 1, Millwall 0, and Sargent has 2 and 2. Post, bounces into the 6-yard box, nobody deals with it until Omar Bamidele puts a foot through it. That's a new weapon Millwall have got. Shackleton who took it. Now Sargent occupying 2 Millwall defenders, getting under a bouncing ball on the halfway line, and he's done so well, and he's made it fall for Dowell, and Norwich have got a man over here. Dowell plays it inside towards Sargent. Can he get his second? Oh, he does! Josh Sargent with the finishing touch, and he deserves that goal for hard work alone. This time he stands and salutes the stake pin.
He was probably more emotional than I was, but again, I think coming into this season I really wanted to prove myself, and especially getting a chance at striker, I really wanted to prove myself even more. So getting those 2 goals, him being there, it was kind of a just very good mix, and it was a perfect night, really.
Here. Josh Sargent.
Josh is the Sky Bet player of the match. Well done.
Thank you. I don't know who brought him down. But he came down to the sideline afterwards, and we had a hug, and that's when it was like a very special moment.
I was trying to look up, but I couldn't find you.
Oh, yeah, you up there? Yeah, right kind of in the middle.
I was looking at it. Should we get a picture of what's going on?
I know. I was laughing so much. Then I got in the locker room and talked to party in the USA. That's awesome.
Well done. Really good. Take care. Good night.
See you later.
USA! USA! USA!
Perfect. Thank you.
You're a machine out there today. Absolute machine.
Cheers, Josh. Appreciate it.
Bloody fire.
Thank you, Josh. Yeah, you're welcome. Have a good night.
That Millwall game felt massive, and I remember doing the interviews afterwards, and I made my way around the pitch to go and speak to Dean Smith, and we may have even spoken with Josh Sargent after that game. And the last few fans were still making their way out of the ground, and I met a young Norwich City supporter, I think he's only about 6 or 7 years old, and he had Josh Sargent's shirt from the game because Josh had given it to him. And that's when you see something like that, you saw how delighted this young fan was to have Josh Sargent's shirt. You realise then it's this guy's making a breakthrough now. You know, he's becoming a crowd favourite.
Now Nunez, Ramsey's made an intelligent run on the left-hand side. He crosses, Sargent's there, and Norwich have scored. Quickly cutting in towards the corner of the penalty area, giving it to Ramsey. Ramsey across to Sargent. Well goal from Norwich City. Sarah's corner played in. Sargent got his head to it, and it's a goal. Sargent has seized possession on the left, cuts in towards the penalty area. It's Sargent for Norwich, and he scored. It has only taken 1 minute and 44 seconds.
His best position is a centre forward down the middle as a 9. I think we all saw that in the games where he started when Teemu was injured. But at the moment we've got Teemu Pukki as well, who we also think very highly of, and who's a proven goal scorer at this level. And we've tried to find a way where the two of them can work together. And you know, thankfully so far they've got 16 goals between them, and hopefully many more to come.
I think they're definitely seeing a different Josh Sargent than last season, just confidence-wise. I feel like everything is flowing right now. Everything's, going well. I think if we can both be on the pitch and, work together, that's the best thing possible, which I feel like we've done a good job of this season. In the end, if I can play winger, striker, whatever it is, and just keep playing my game, keep producing goals, assists, whatever it is, at the end of the day, that's all I really want to be doing.
We really look at this last training camp as the final step into the World Cup, and an important step.
One thing that forwards are judged on, whether it's fair or not, is goals. And so when he wasn't scoring, and he hadn't scored for a while, it was more difficult to include him. Last year in the Premier League, he played a lot of times on the right wing, so now it was even difficult for us to get an idea of what he could do at striker. So now when he's been able to play, sometimes there's always a silver lining in everything, and when the top goal scorer goes down with a slight injury and Josh gets to play striker and he scores a bunch of goals, he gets confidence. And we get to call him into the national team.
It was good camp, good to get back with the guys, really, and I thought I definitely did the best that I could.
For him, it's just about continuing to do what he does at Norwich. Continue to try to perform well when he gets his opportunities with us, and then the rest he can't control.
Do I think that we have the best players in each position identified? Yes. Do I think they're all going to be available for the start of the World Cup? I don't know, and that's just what every international manager will be dealing with right now. We'll be holding our breaths, hoping that that's the case. But even in this camp, we're missing 5 starters.
Going into that camp, I was just really excited to prove myself. Like, okay, this is my last opportunity to really show him what I can do before we go to the World Cup. So, I was a bit disappointed that I only got 45 minutes, but at the same time, I felt like I did everything that I could. So, yeah, in the end, it's his decision. We'll have to see what he does.
To have a chance to play in a World Cup would obviously be amazing. So I hope that happens for him. He is young, and as a striker, I think that's a really tough position to kind of get your feet wet. It's a tough one to just dive into. I think he's on the right path. He's working hard, and I think he'll get there. And then hopefully, do really well for Norwich and the United States.
You know, I think every coach wants a player like Josh on his team. I think he's versatile. He can play multiple positions. You know, again, he can score goals. He can play wide. But most importantly, he's a great guy in the locker room. He's a guy that's going to fight for the team and do whatever it takes for the team to win games.
If I were picking, I would pick Josh, but I'm biased. You know, I know what he can do in World Cups. You know, you can say it's just age group, but there is a translation when you're under the brightest spotlight and you're playing on the biggest stage and you've done it already twice, you know, for your respective age group teams, that a player that now is playing for Norwich and having the success that he's had already early in his career, yeah, I would pick Josh.
I mean, there's nothing more than you'd like to see as someone who's worked with a player, to see him and how much it has an impact in terms of in St. Louis, the younger generation. So to see him on a huge stage like that and hopefully make his debut and play against England, as long as he doesn't score, that'd be an amazing experience, yeah.
You know, we use all of his old videos from when he was little to, you know, show the youth coming up how it should be done. We have moves named after him. We have drills and activities. You know, Josh Sargent finishing. He's a true mentor for all the little guys.
I know every time we have U.S. games here, everybody's expects him to be on the team. So, and if he's not selected for whatever particular tournament or game, you know, everybody here is disappointed.
While the Americans have a lot of exciting talent, they don't have many proven goal scorers who have done it and are continue to do it at this level in European football. And to do it in the Championship, which is a very unforgiving league, is a hugely impressive feat. And I'm pretty sure we'll see him start for the US.
If a former Werder player played a good match, the people were writing Werder educates. So maybe this will happen during the World Cup again when Josh scores an important goal. Maybe not against Germany.
All managers are looking at players who are in current form. You know, when they go into any tournament, and I'm sure the US manager he's looking at Josh right now and seeing his goal scoring record, but not just that, the chances he's creating for others as well. You know, and the shots they're getting blocked and sometimes not going in, and his all-round performances now are certainly putting him in the limelight to get a call up for the World Cup. And you know, we'll all be really supportive of him from Norwich City if he does. We hope he does, and we hope he can go and show them what we're seeing.
You know, in my opinion, I think I've done more than enough to prove that I should be in that squad. And now, at the end of the day, it's up to the manager, really. So, you know, right now in this moment, this is the biggest thing for me. I don't care that I'm young. I want to make the squad and I want to play in a World Cup.
Okay, let's start with the goalkeepers then. Couple of questions here, Taylor.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
I told you, it's going to be the strikers, though. We don't know how he cut his nose, by the way. Oh, my heart is racing. I don't look at my heart rate.
Are your forwards that are heading to the World Cup?
I think it was around noon when a couple of the guys that had already gotten calls, I guess, told me or asked me if I got the call yet. I was like, no, what do you mean? They said, oh, he called us, you know, we're going. So from that moment on, I was just stressing the whole day, obviously, really anxious. Got home and told my wife, like, if I'm a bit off, like, I'm sorry, but I'm just very, very emotional right now. I don't know how to act, really. And yeah, I think it was, we were eating dinner, actually. Don't remember what time it was or anything. I would guess around 6:30, 7 o'clock. And yeah, I saw Greg Berhalter text me and asked if I had a second. Right away, we're both looking at each other like, oh God, what do we do? What do we do?
What's up, man?
What's up? How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good, good.
I wanted to let you know that on Wednesday we're going to be announcing you on the 26-man roster for the World Cup. Congratulations.
God, I haven't been able to breathe all day.
I know, man. I know. And the way we're looking at this, man, is, you know, we want 26 guys that are going to come help this team be successful. That's the most important thing, you know, whatever the roles are.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
And you're a guy that can make an impact. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You bet, bro. Who you going to call your parents right now?
I'm going to go downstairs first.
That's right.
Yeah, I'll probably call my parents.
Nice, man. Hey, congratulations. Psych for you, bro.
I just remember like I was shaking and just, I feel like it's been such a long process, a lot of ups and downs, and to finally get that call, you know, knowing that all my hard work and everything I put into it, you know, is paying off. It was just a very proud moment for myself and for my family, really. Yeah, it's hard to focus, you know, but we have a game Saturday against Middlesbrough. Just gotta, you know, do my best there, hopefully score a goal going into the World Cup, and yeah, it should be a good time.
It falls for McLean on the edge of the box. He tees up Sargent! And Sargent, who is off to the World Cup, has just scored his 9th goal of the season.
Hi Josh, Stuart Webber, hope you're well. Just only a quickie, I've just received the email about your call up, so I just want to say, you know, well done. Great achievement, well deserved, most importantly. So yeah, what a fantastic thing for you and your family to go and represent your country in a World Cup. So I wish you well, obviously not against Wales. Hopefully it's US and Wales should get through. But that's going to be an amazing experience for you. And everyone at the club is super proud.
Oh God.
Fallon, Missouri. Josh Sargent.
It's what every kid dreams of, obviously, growing up. So to be able to play in front of millions and millions in the biggest sporting event, you know, is just, it's really hard to wrap your head around. But yeah, it's all happening really fast, and we already have our game in, what, a week and a half now, so it's pretty exciting.